Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. In 1962, President Kennedy said, "A nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people." And today, Bloomberg proudly announced Google will ban ads and stop funding media that contradict the scientific consensus on climate change. This brings to mind what Michael Crichton said about consensus. I want to pause here and talk about this notion of consensus and the rise of what has been called consensus science. I regard consensus science as an extremely pernicious development that ought to be stopped cold in its tracks. Historically, the claim of consensus has been the first refuge of scoundrels, and it's a way to avoid debate by claiming that the matter is already settled. Whenever you hear the consensus of scientists agrees on something or other, reach for your wallet because you're being had. Let's be clear, the work of science has nothing whatever to do with consensus. Consensus is the business of politics. Science, on the contrary, requires only one investigator who happens to be right, which means that he or she has results that are verifiable by reference to the real world. In science, consensus is irrelevant. What is relevant is reproducible results. The greatest scientists in history are great precisely because they broke with the consensus. There's no such thing as consensus science. If it's consensus, it isn't science. If it's science, it isn't consensus. Period. So according to Michael Crichton, Google, YouTube, and Bloomberg are engaged in the business of scoundrels. So let's see what their agenda is. 2 days ago, Bloomberg was bragging how a transition to clean energy would bring energy crises and gas shortages. They obviously want energy crises and gas shortages, and they don't want anyone questioning the junk science which is driving those policies. And it's not just energy which they're being scoundrels about. They are also demonizing methane, a greenhouse gas which exists in such small quantities in the atmosphere that climate modelers frequently don't even bother to use it in their calculations. Methane can't exist very long in the oxygen-rich atmosphere of planet Earth. It quickly oxidizes into carbon dioxide and water. So why are they attacking methane and not allowing anyone to question their junk science? Bloomberg wants people to believe that cows are causing global warming. Never mind that during the coldest period of the last 10,000 years, during the Little Ice Age, there were 50 to 100 million bovines roaming the Great Plains of the United States and Canada. 100 million bison in the 16th century didn't cause any global warming, but for some reason now, the same number of cattle is causing a world-ending crisis, which requires that free speech and all other civil liberties be suspended permanently. This is an attack on the meat industry and has nothing to do with climate. They don't want you eating any meat. Toto agrees with President Kennedy that the public should be allowed to judge truth and falsehood in an open market. But the globalists who are running the world have a different opinion. You can visit Toto, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at RealClimateScience.com.